Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with the mighty Jingles. That's me. This isn't me though, this is PointyHairedJedi. This is a replay that he sent to me over Discord, promising that it was highly amusing. And I have to be honest, whenever PointyHairedJedi sends me a replay and says it's highly amusing, it usually is. And my hopes were raised even further when I saw what ship he was sailing. This is the Ochotnik. I've almost certainly mispronounced that, but hey, it wouldn't be the first time. Tier 5 premium Russian destroyer, and it is about as ridiculous as it looks. This was basically an experiment that the Russian Navy decided to conduct in order to find out just exactly how many guns and torpedoes they could fit onto a destroyer. And they figured out that if they just made the destroyer really, really long, the answer was all of them. I mean, this thing has 4 triple torpedo tubes mounted midships, 360-degree fire pattern, 12 torpedoes at tier 5. And then we move on to the guns. Look at them all. 130mm guns, of course. Your typical very high performance Russian 130mm armor-piercing rifles. 7 of these buggers in total, which means that even a Nicholas has to think twice before getting involved in a gunfight with one of these things. And oh, speaking of which, there's a Nicholas. The downside to these guns is that while they are very powerful and they do pack a large punch, the reload is very, very slow. And the traverse is also very, very slow. And Jedi is spotted, obviously. And that's a lot of enemy ships, including an Emil Bertin and yet another destroyer. The Mutsuki this time. Takes some hits there, I think, from the Emil Bertin. The Mutsuki has almost certainly launched torpedoes. Yes, of course he has. There they are. Jedi ducks into cover behind the island, trying to get out a line of fire of that Emil Bertin, who is doing a large amount of damage to him. And he could just keep going at this point, break line of fire from the Emil Bertin with the island. Nobody in that smokescreen would be able to spot him, but, well, he goes for the safe option. Pops his own smokescreen and fires all 12 of his short-range torpedoes into the smokescreen generated by the enemy Nicholas while continuing to shoot at the Emil Bertin. And these are short-range torpedoes. They only have a 4.5 kilometer range, but that's still 500 meters more than any other Soviet destroyer that isn't a Tier 7 premium or Tier 8, 9 or 10. And he has in fact sunk the Nicholas, who apparently didn't get the memo about smokescreens being torpedo magnets. Now for the Emil Bertin, and typically just as he reloads high explosive, the Emil Bertin starts giving him lots and lots of juicy broadside to shoot out with his 130mm high velocity rifled guns. So he pumps some torpedoes into the smokescreen, almost certainly going to lose sight of that Emil Bertin. More torpedoes from the smokescreen, almost certainly fired by the Mutsuki, although you can probably expect some Emil Bertin torpedoes to be appearing anytime soon as well. The Mutsuki only fired that one torpedo launcher at Jedi when he was initially spotted, so he still had a couple in reserve. Smokescreen is about to expire. Emil Bertin's disappeared, but there are still plenty of enemy ships and aircraft heading in this direction. There's the Emil Bertin. Armour piercing loaded. Shots land a little high. Unlucky not to get any citadels there. Mutsuki temporarily spotted, but he's not going to stay spotted. Guns have reloaded, but now the Emil Bertin is turning away. While Soviet, and Russian in this case, 130mm armour piercing does cause huge amounts of damage to broadside light cruisers at close and medium ranges, when they start angling away it's not quite as effective. Emil Bertin starts turning in, Jedi risks the shot, Emil Bertin starts turning away. Jedi's getting wise to this guy's tricks by now. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There's the Emil Bertin's torpedoes. Jedi has switched to the high explosive. Does some damage, but it looks like the Emil Bertin is probably going to survive to fight. If not another day. Oh, that was awfully close. Yes. Spotted by aircraft. Jedi's got his AA guns turned off. Not that it would make a huge amount of difference, even if he had turned them on. You don't shoot down aircraft in the Ochotnik. Its anti-aircraft firepower is laughable. But he wasn't doing a huge amount of damage to that Emil Bertin, and there are plenty of other ships that did have him spotted, in fact still do have him spotted and are targeting him, so his immediate priority there was disengaging from combat going unspotted so that he's no longer the subject of the attention of all these enemy battleships and cruisers. So, you're not getting shot at. Stop, take a moment to figure out what's going on and what you're going to do about it. Jedi's team is actually in the lead at the moment. They've sunk 2 destroyers without taking any losses of their own. And they're the only team that actually holds any of the capture points. This one, capture point Charlie. That Wyoming over there, however, he's got plans for this capture point. And he's steaming in full speed, which, you know, isn't terribly fast. He's in a Wyoming after all. Assuming that he's being backed up by the other 2 enemy battleships over there, the Corb Bay and the Iron Duke. And you know what they say about making assumptions. If you make an assumption, all you're doing is making an ass out of you and umption. Give the Wyoming some credit though. He does realise that he's steaming straight towards a very, very angry looking smokescreen and has been set on fire and burned his damage control and has now been set on fire again by a very angry looking smokescreen. And it doesn't take him too long to realise that there are liable to be some torpedoes coming out of that very angry smokescreen. Jedi launches the Steelfish, but the Wyoming anticipated coming under torpedo attack at more or less exactly the right time. And he is going to avoid every single torpedo fired at him. There's nothing he can do about the fire, of course. He's probably wishing he hadn't used his damage control when he had only the one fire burning, but, well, that's a lesson that he's probably just going to have to learn the hard way. But he has at least managed to avoid all the torpedoes, so he's doing at least 300% better than most Tier 4 battleship players. It's also worth pointing out that even though he didn't quite get the backup and support from the 2 battleships behind him that he may have been hoping, he's actually managed to push 2 enemy destroyers, an Okhotnik and a Kamikaze R, out of capture point Charlie, and he's in the process of decapping it. So it may have cost him half of his health, but he didn't eat any torpedoes, and he's already done a better job in a Tier 4 battleship of capping and counter-capping than any of the cruisers and destroyers on his team. We may have to start treating this guy seriously. He may actually be a competent player. And you know what happens to competent players? They get focused down by other competent players, and that's exactly what Jedi's doing here. He's capping, we need to get that stopped. The fastest way to do that is to use this island to get as close as you possibly can. Once he gets within 2 kilometers, he's automatically detected, and this is the moment of greatest danger. But if you can successfully torpedo this Wyoming, who has just sunk one of Jedi's battleships, he will not be spotted by that Iron Duke over there. As long as he doesn't stray within 5.7 kilometers, and he does sink the Wyoming, and he is not spotted. But here's the thing about the Okhotnik. It doesn't turn particularly well, and he kind of drifts into spotting range of the Iron Duke. And kind of gets away with it. Iron Duke, not paying any attention whatsoever. He's now out of line of sight. Emergency stopped on the hull of the dead Wyoming, and he's able to keep that small island between himself and the Iron Duke, who has now turned away. He's no longer within 5.7 kilometers. He can break contact without any fear of being spotted. So that's the good news. The bad news is that whereas Jedi's team were winning by 2 kills just a couple of minutes ago, they're now actually losing by 1, 6 kills to 5. It's not been going too well in the middle of the map, and it's not going too well up in the northern end of the map either. They do still hold 2 of the 3 capture points, but if they keep losing ships at this rate, that's probably not going to remain true for much longer. Oh look, he spotted the Mitsuki, which of course means that the Mitsuki has spotted him and sit in front of the guns of that many battleships. Better safe than sorry. Pops his smokescreen. Mitsuki's taken a long time to shoot it in though. There it is, finally. And that wasn't even shooting at Jedi. Now it could just be, as Jedi finishes the Mitsuki off, that the Mitsuki was not firing his guns at anybody because he didn't see Jedi until the last moment. It could be that it just took that long for him to get his gun turrets turned around. Or it could be that he was busy with his torpedo launchers. Sure enough, there are the Mitsuki's torpedoes, which of course is exactly why Jedi reversed behind the cover of the island. Now, still a lot of enemy battleships over there, but nobody can see any of them because both of the destroyers are hiding inside smokescreens. Jedi asks the Kamikaze R if he can spot. Not an unreasonable request. The Kamikaze R does have far better concealment than an Okhotnik. But, well, the Kamikaze R doesn't need to leave the cover of his smokescreen and risk getting shot at, because Jedi was lucky enough to have a fantastic carrier player on his team who was only too happy to vector fighters over the top of these enemy battleships and spot them for the 2 destroyers. Jedi's smokescreen is about to expire, however, and that Corvette is getting uncomfortably close, so he fires up the engine booster. And what's the magic number on the Okhotnik? 5.7 kilometer surface detection range. He has, of course, been spotted, but he's not firing the guns, and he's motoring out of there as quickly as he possibly can, and he should be able to get himself unspotted relatively soon. But why is the Corvette not shooting at him? The Iron Duke's shooting at him. That was reasonably close, but now he's unspotted. Providing he can stay away from those torpedo bombers, he should be able to continue to remain unspotted. But the Corvette never even attempted to shoot at him. He's been spotted again, this time by the torpedo bombers. And still nothing from the Corvette. At this point, with nothing to lose, he turns his AA guns on, although there's very, very little chance he's actually going to shoot any of these things down. He's probably going to need some assistance from the friendly carrier. That guy's dead in the water. He shut his engines down and he's not even rotating his gun turrets. This guy is AFK. I don't know what happened, but he's definitely not at the keyboard. That's a matter for another time, however, because here comes that cross drop that we were worried about. Torpedoes from both sides from the enemy carrier. Now this thing does not turn very well, but you can help yourself by not going at full speed. And that will help you turn inside and avoid the torpedoes, but if you lose speed, that makes you a very long and inviting target for that Iron Duke over there. I'm not entirely sure at this point whether or not Jedi has decided that that Corvette is or isn't AFK, because he's still focusing fire on it, hoping probably to set another fire. You can see him spreading his shots around the superstructure. The Iron Duke's not shooting at... Oh wait, yes he is. Here it comes, here it comes. Yeah, that was a lot of damage. You see, British battleships? You see what you can do when you're not firing high explosive? Well, there's the additional fire on the Corvette that he wanted. And he's probably safe from fire from the Iron Duke for the immediate future. Especially given that the Iron Duke is actually doing something quite smart. Assuming that this guy is AFK, and he almost certainly is at this point, what that actually means is that the... Oh, hang on, there's some fire coming in from the Iron Duke again. Oh, that was bloody close. But yes, Jedi's team have 4 ships remaining. The enemy team have 5 ships remaining, but one of them is 100% AFK. So the Iron Duke, rather than trying to battle it out down here against superior enemy numbers, is keeping up the fire at Jedi while he can, and is instead retiring and heading off to the north, where his team holds the numbers advantage. So that's actually a very, very smart move from the Iron Duke, and I realise that there are going to be people in the comments saying, well, yeah, it seems rather obvious. But just because it's obvious, that doesn't mean that you can expect people to automatically do it when you're playing World of Warships or any kind of online multiplayer game for that matter. So the fact that the Iron Duke player is actually using a bit of common sense and acting accordingly speaks very well for his potential as a high-tier battleship player. Unfortunately, it's at that precise point when the enemy Mutsuki sinks the friendly Koenig up by Capture Point Alpha, just as the friendly carrier was attempting to defend him from an airdropped torpedo attack. So that means that the enemy team now possess an actual numbers advantage rather than just a technical numbers advantage. And Jedi is the only player on his team who's still down in this southern end of the map. So he is going to have to sink that Corvette and then do what the Iron Duke did and get up north to support the rest of his team, who are currently fighting against superior enemy numbers. Luckily, the Corvette is 100% AFK, and so all he has to do is get within 4.5 kilometers and torpedo the shit out of him. So a nice little bit of damage farming going on here. Of course, while he's within 4.5 kilometers and torpedoing this guy, he is spotted by him. And it also wouldn't do to get within range of his secondary gun batteries, because AFK or not, those are still going to work. And sure enough, the enemy Orion, taking advantage of the fact that Jedi has been spotted by the AFK battleship to attempt to secure a potentially game-winning kill. But 2 can play at that game, sunshine, and Jedi has set him on fire. The Corbeil has been sunk. Kill number 4, high caliber. Orion on fire. Orion sunk. Kraken unleashed and double strike. Which would be great news. Well, it is great news, but it would be even better news if they hadn't just lost their Wyoming at exactly the same time to the enemy Mutsuki, who's lurking around there up by Alpha, just picking ships off one at a time. He's now on his 3rd kill. So it's just Jedi with 3,000 health remaining, and the friendly carrier, the Tier 5 USS Bogue, who it has to be said has proven to be a very, very valuable teammate up until now, against a Mutsuki on 3 kills, an enemy Tier 5 Zuiho aircraft carrier, and that Iron Duke up there. So what advantages do they have? What disadvantages do they have right now? Unfortunately, all of the advantages that they have, the fact that they have aircraft that can spot targets and that they have ships that are hard to spot, the destroyers, the enemy team also kind of have. And they have a battleship as well. And 2 of the cap circles. Well, there's something that Jedi can do about those last 2 problems. The fact that the enemy team have a battleship and the fact that they have 2 of the cap circles. He's just entered Bravo, so the enemy team no longer have points coming in from that. And with the Iron Duke on the other side of that island, he should be able to fire without being spotted. Assuming, of course, that there's nobody else with a direct line of sight within 9.2 kilometers. And that tells you something. That tells you that neither the Mutsuki nor the Zuiho are within 9.2 kilometers, because he's able to fire over that island and hit the Iron Duke without being spotted. And then he does get spotted. And straight away he's thinking, there's the Mutsuki. But, plot twist, it's not actually the Mutsuki. It's the Zuiho. Now, what I know, but what Jedi didn't know at the time, is that Zuiho has been deplaned. This Bogue shot down 27 of his aircraft by himself. Oh, and there's the Mutsuki. Okay, that's not good. He should be safe from getting shot at by the Iron Duke. But there are probably going to be torpedoes ahead. And now he's lost sight of the Mutsuki, and he's still spotted by the Zuiho. And as anticipated, there are the Mutsuki's torpedoes, and then Jedi catches a lucky break because the Mutsuki screws the pooch. He was away, he was unspotted, there were no enemy aircraft nearby, and he fired his guns. If you're in a Mutsuki on the same amount of health as an Okhotnik, you don't want to be getting into a gunfight with that Okhotnik. And the Mutsuki realises his error, and he does stop firing as the enemy carrier vectors aircraft overhead to spot him, but it's just a little bit too late because Jedi's final salvo finished him anyway, and the carrier has managed to sink that pesky Iron Duke, which just leaves this Zuiho with no aircraft. So he's relying entirely upon his secondary gun batteries, and he's in torpedo range of an Okhotnik, which has 12 torpedoes that it can put into the water from either side of the ship at any time. And so naturally Jedi misses. There's the Confederate award. Luckily he's got 7 of these guns, firing high explosive at the moment, but there's enough of a broadside opportunity now that he can actually start getting potentially some citadels here, although he is now within range of the Zuiho's secondary gun batteries. There are the citadels at long last, as advertised, with these 130mm Russian rifles. And it is of course completely inevitable at this point that despite that shocking torpedo launch, that's his 7th kill, and he's won the match. PointyHairedJedi noobing his way to victory, one botched torpedo launch at a time. And that's why I love him. He reminds me so much of me. Ably assisted, of course, it has to be said, by a very, very useful teammate in the shape of the Tier 5 USS Bogue aircraft carrier player. PointyHairedJedi, not actually a World of Warships community contributor, but he does stream a lot of World of Warships, amongst other games as well. All of which you can see at his Twitch and YouTube channel, linked down below in the video description. Jedi, thanks very much for sending that one in. Everybody else, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.